Hello, this is Tommy Franks. Welcome to the 4-Star Leadership Podcast, a product of the General Tommy Franks Leadership Institute and Museum. We're here to get a view into the lives of the legacy makers, the movers and the shakers of today, to offer insights from the full spectrum of the leadership community. We'll talk to former 4-star students and explore their leadership development path. We'll work to find out what they are about today and learn from the opportunities they've made for themselves in this world. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome you to this podcast. Remember, leaders are not born, they're developed.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Core Principles of Leadership with General Tommy Franks. I am your host, Delise Travis, and we are very fortunate to have Jim Wilkinson as our guest on the program. He will share growing up in East Texas, his education, and how he got to the White House and served our nation's government and General Tommy Franks. His experiences and valuable insights on grit, determination, and resiliency is a great resource for our 4-star students and our listeners, covering all aspects of caring, communication, common vision, and character. But first, a word from our major sponsor, REI Oklahoma.
REI Oklahoma is proud to be a part of the General Tommy Franks Leadership Institute in the production and distribution of these podcasts designed to inspire leaders and difference makers. At REI Oklahoma, we have been working with small business leaders, entrepreneurs, and people who are driven to succeed for years. Highly motivated people working to own their own businesses, live in their own homes, and make the world a better place. Since its beginning, REI Oklahoma has continued to identify hurdles and deliver holistic solutions to create job growth and help neighborhoods thrive in both rural and urban communities. REI Oklahoma looks forward to visiting with you about helping your business and community grow. Visit reiok.org or call 800-658-2823 to start the conversation.
And now we join our guest, Jim Wilkinson. Jim Wilkinson grew up in East Texas, graduating from University of Texas at Arlington with a degree in finance and a Master of Science in Government from Johns Hopkins University, and is also a graduate of the Yale University School of Management's Global Executive Leadership Program. In 1992, he began serving our nation's government, working in the U.S. Congress for House Majority Leader Dick Armey and spokesman for the National Republican Congressional Committee. In the White House as Deputy Assistant to President Bush and Deputy Director of Communications and spokesman for Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld's transition team. Additionally, Wilkinson served as an officer in the United States Navy Reserves and taught international communications at the Johns Hopkins University. In 2002, Jim was named Director of Strategic Communications for General Tommy Franks at U.S. Central Command in Doha. He was head of the War Room, or Coalition Information Center, for the Afghanistan War, public relations preparation for 2003 invasion of Iraq, and part of the White House Iraq Group under Karl Rove and Scooter Libby. Wilkinson served as the Communications Director for the 2004 Republican National Convention, and then as Senior Advisor to U.S. Secretary of State, and as Deputy National Security Advisor for Communications. He has been a managing partner of Brunswick Group, LLP, a public relations firm providing strategic counsel on global corporate mandates. He served as Vice President of Communications for PepsiCo and as Head of International Corporate Affairs for Alibaba Group, the world's largest online and mobile marketplace. He is founder of TrailRunner International. He is an endurance sports enthusiast, including 26 marathons, and enjoys trail running, playing chess, skiing, snowboarding, and playing acoustic guitar.
Good morning, Jim Wilkinson. It's nice to have you on our podcast.
Good morning.
We're so excited to have you on the program this morning and share your story with our students And can you tell us a little bit about you so we can kind of get to know you, where you started out life, your family, childhood, that kind of thing?
You bet. Well, look, I'm a country boy. I was born in a place called Nacogdoches, Texas, which is proud of being the oldest town in Texas. And then I grew up in a town called Gary, Texas, my first few years, and we had a population of about 100. And then we moved to the big city. We moved to Tenaha, Texas. Tenaha is Indian for muddy water. It's right on the border of Louisiana. We had a population of 1,005. So we moved to the big city there. But yeah, I'm a country boy. Started in East Texas in the country, was an athlete, and then, I had the most fantastic mother and father and brothers and sisters you could ever have. And then moved
How many
on.
brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I have a younger sister and a younger brother. And
Okay, so you're the oldest. Were they athletes as well?
not really. They were more interested in academics. They played sports because you kind of had to. In our hometown, there was nobody else to play. You couldn't have a football team if we didn't all play or basketball or different sports.
You had a football team there?
Oh, yeah, we were 1A. We were 1A. Now they're 2A. They're huge. But at the time we were 1A, and it went up to 5A. So we were very small.
So what position did you play football?
I played quarterback for one series, and I think everybody agreed that was not a good idea. Then I played running back for another series. Everyone agreed that wasn't a good idea. And then I wound up playing wide receiver. So
I see. Well, good. So you went to the University of Texas, Arlington, and what prompted you to go there? What were you thinking?
Look, I didn't have any money. I was an athlete. I had gone to community college on a scholarship. And so I sort of bounced around a couple of community colleges, and I was a fry cook working at night at Black Eyed Pea restaurants. I can make chicken fingers and mashed potatoes for like 500 people. I still can't do it for 4, but I just don't have the skill right. But I was a fry cook, and then wound up, going to, I applied and got in, and I didn't really have any money or any political connections or anything. And I always wanted to go to a school that was close. It was in Arlington, Texas. It's actually where General Franks went, University of Texas at Arlington. So I got in and like everybody, changed my major 10 times, but wound up getting out of there with a business degree.
And so then did you go straight into your master's program, I see, from there, or did you do something?
No. So I lived in the dorms, and at the time I lived in the dorms. And so I was very poor, and I was surrounded by people who were very poor. We were all broke in the dorms, and we all, living off credit cards and ramen soup and ravioli and macaroni and cheese. And I met a guy called Mark Dean, who was this black guy from Washington, D.C. And so we decided we would rent a car because we couldn't afford to fly, and none of us had ever actually been on a plane. And so we actually drove during college, up me and him and this Indian guy who was in our class in our dorm. And we drove to DC, and I went to see his family, and they were so welcoming and wonderful to us. And they lived in Maryland, and then he took us. We saw all the big buildings in DC, and I'm like, wow, this must be where all the smart people are. and it's all these huge buildings. And at that time we didn't really have the internet back then. And so I went to the bookstore and found a book on how to get an internship in Washington, D.C. So I just sent out 100 letters to try to get an internship, and then, wow, it's kind of a funny story, but I wound up getting an internship in D.C. with a Texas congressman.
And can you tell me a little bit about him?
There's a guy named Dick Armey, who at that time was an up-and-coming congressman. And so I had written letters to every congressman asking for an internship because that's what the book said you should do. And I was just walking around. I rented another car and driven to D.C. because I couldn't afford to fly. And then was walking around the Canon office building one day and saw the big roster of hundreds of 435 names, obviously, and Army was an A. So I said, I'll just go by and thank him. And so I went by, walked in the office, said, I'd like to tell Dick Armey, thank you, consider me for an internship. And they said, you don't just walk in and see the congressman. It doesn't work that way. So I met some folks there. They kind of took this country boy under their wing, and I wound up working for him, one of the great decisions of my life. So
as a National Republican Congressional Committee, as a spokesperson?
Yeah, what had happened before that was I grew up revering the military. I love freedom, and I love, I love, I had the great leaders like Colin Powell and others that I grew up with. And so I thought every person should be in the military in our country. I still do. And so I
had joined the Navy Reserves because I had a full-time job, and so I was commissioned as an officer. Dick Army actually put my shoulder boards on as an ensign in the Navy. So I would go down, I'd work all week, and on weekends go down and do my reserve training. I also had decided I really wanted to go to grad school. I just thought you should always be learning. I thought people should always be in the military and always be learning. So I went to Johns Hopkins at night and got my degree there at night. And then I had a call when I come be the spokesman for it's called the NRCC, National Republican Congressional Committee, which was really the kind of oversaw the congressional races. And that was leading into the presidential election. So I said, yeah, it sounds fun. I'll do that.
So you had no spare time because you were working for Congressman Dick Army during the day. You were getting your master's degree at night, and you were serving in the reserves on the weekends.
That's it. When you're young, no one's going to fight for you like you fight for you. And what I mean by that is I'm 51 years old now, and everyone I know who's my age, who's miserable, looks back and they can say, yeah, I set it aside in my high school years, my 20s, and didn't fight for what I wanted to do. My point is when you're young, all right, you've got to develop your own strategy, your own view, but you have to go do it. All right, we live in a time where, does money give you advantages? Yes, it does. But street fighting, hard work, that's the real advantage. If I learned anything from General Franks, it was that, is you have to be a person of substance and knowledge and learning. And knowledge always wins, and learning always wins. And so I had come from the country. I didn't have any connections. I didn't have a great education growing up. There's no excuse for just doing it yourself. Whatever that thing is you're interested in, do it. Okay. Don't say I'll do it in 10 years. I'll do it in 20 years. I'll do it when I get around to it. Do it today. You know, everybody's worried about their 5-year plan. You need to worry about your 5-minute plan. All right. 5 minutes, next 5 minutes. When you get the next 5 minutes right, you keep doing that, you're going to be just fine.
That's some really awesome advice. Thank you for that. And I think that's great advice for all of us at any point, but especially when you're young. So tell me what happened after that, and kind of how things turned for you, and doors.
Look, we had an election
and hard work. Yes.
Yeah, there was an election, and it was President Bush running against Vice President Gore. And after election day, it wasn't decided, which hadn't happened in a while in our country. And so we went to this recount. I went down to Florida, worked on the recount, and then President Bush won. I then, because I had served in the military, and by that time I was well known in communications, they asked me to be the transition spokesman for Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. And I just assumed I would go to the Pentagon with him, work over there somewhere. But then along the way, I wound up getting named as Deputy Director of Communications in the White House. And so that happened right before President Bush took office. So I was able to go in literally the day he won. I was in the White House, and the day he was sworn into office, and was one of the first people in the White House, and got to be there and be a part of his team as Deputy Director of Communications. Look, I was a communications official in the White House, and then when 9/11 happened, September 11 happens, it shook us all. Many of you watching this will remember how painful that, not even just that day, that period was for us. Many of you won't remember it at all. If you're really young, you may not remember it at all. What I can just tell you is that for the first time in a long time, the oceans hadn't protected us. And we didn't really know what that meant as a people. That was new. And so General Franks obviously became a very important name at that point. He was leading U.S. Central Command, and he went into Afghanistan and did something I don't think anyone had done, which was win. The Russians had been there and lost. Many people had been there many times and lost. He actually went in there and won. And as he and others turned to look at the other threats facing our country, I was asked by Secretary Rumsfeld if I'd be willing to talk to General Franks. And I wound up moving to Tampa, Florida to be his spokesman at Central Command. One of the great opportunities of my life. You want to say one of the great decisions of your life, but I was just so honored that he accepted me and wanted me. And someone of General Franks' stature and great intellectual acuity, it was fantastic.
It is. I can speak from experience as well. Working for General Franks is a wonderful opportunity. It's a great learning opportunity and a great growing opportunity as well. So can you share any of that? In the museum, we have a wonderful permanent exhibit on 9/11 that walks you through the day. And then since then, we have created an exhibit called Task Force Dagger that shares the information about the initial insertion into Afghanistan. So I know you were part of all that with Central Command and the CIA and Special Forces and the generals of the Northern Alliance all working together to go in and take that initial success story into northern Afghanistan. And that's a really great and not really well-known story that we are sharing here at the museum currently. But so share kind of, your story after you were Karl Rove's choice, I understand, to work as communications director for the 2004 Republican National Convention, or do you want to share more about your time in the?
I want to speak about General. I think.
Oh, please do.
It's important for us all, especially during this period of COVID. I think during this pandemic, we've all stopped. I think we've reevaluated the people around us. We've reevaluated who we want to do things with. And I dare say we've all reevaluated what's important to us. I don't know a single person that hadn't. The pandemic has touched Americans really unlike anything since World War II. I mean, we all know someone that's had it, died from it, knows someone that's died from it, has a family member that's died from it. My point of that is we're a greatly divided nation right now, but that's not particularly new or interesting. We've been divided many, many times in our history. We've always come out of it with really two things. One, we celebrate new statesmen and women who go and fight hard to build our country forward. We also stop and remember our history. And so many people around the world are able to live in peace and safety and security because of General Franks. And so coming out of this period, I hope that each of us will do what it takes to remind people about those that came before us that made it possible for all of us. I serve on the Women's Sports Foundation with Billie Jean King. Now, you can like Billie Jean King's politics, you can hate Billie Jean King's politics, but as a woman, no woman can say that Billie Jean King hasn't helped women, right? Whether it comes to prize money or equality, right? And so our job as serious people, and if you're a young person watching this video, that means you're a thoughtful person who actually cares about your future and leading. Our job is to step back and look at everyone's perspective and really celebrate the perspectives we think are good and true, ethical, pure, and intellectually honest. And that's General Franks. He's a statesman. He built one of the largest coalitions in the history of the world for the initial invasion of Afghanistan. I forget how many. I want to say it was 80 plus trailers down in Tampa, Florida. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a large number of nations who came together as part of that coalition. That's not easy to do. I think if you're looking at today's politics, whether you're conservative or liberal, that's never been easy to do in history. Okay, in history of our country. Okay, that's not been easy to do, but that was done. And certainly President Bush played a senior role there in doing that. But you have to understand, it takes a statesman like General Franks to actually put together a coalition. The actual mechanics of making men and women work together 24 hours a day to go and help take on harmful actors in another country that doesn't speak your language. All right. That is really, really difficult. And that takes leadership. I have a saying I coined, which I stole it from someone, I'm sure, which is amateurs talk tactics and professionals talk logistics. If you're watching this video and you're thinking about your future, okay, the job you have 10 years from now is probably in an industry that doesn't exist today. When I started in politics, there was no email. We had fax machines, and we thought, wow, we were amazing.
Yes.
All right. By the time we get to today, my mobile phone has more computing power in it than the space capsules did that took people to the moon. And so, but some things are universal. And hard work and ethics and actually understanding how things work are universal. Okay. Really, really, really universal. And it takes someone like General Franks that has those values, but also that skill to do it. And what he did was frankly, quite historic. So for a young country boy to be able to see that up close, it's incredible. Everybody on this video who's watching this video is going to have someone in their life take them by the hand and lead them into a new chapter. All right. That happens all along your life. It happens in business. Someone helps you. So you should help other people. It happens in your family life. I know my wife changed my life for the better. It happens with your kids. I know my little 9-year-old daughter and my 7-year-old son. They just kind of know the days I'm down, and they'll bring me a picture they colored, or they'll do something that really makes me feel better. My point is, when we take this pandemic period and we decide who we're going to celebrate in the future, I hope all of you will celebrate and tell your kids and grandkids and family about General Franks, because that's the kind of person that makes it all possible. And so from a leadership perspective, to get to see that up close and personal was amazing. I remember when General Franks' book came out, and it's behind me on this shelf here, but one of the great joys of my life and honors of my life is there's a picture of him on the back of that book walking in Saddam Hussein's old palace that we had destroyed. And I'm walking behind him in that picture. And when you have a little boy who's 7 and a little girl who's 9, and they look at your bookshelf and they ask you, have you actually read all these books? But then you show them that, and your little 7-year-old son and your 9-year-old daughter is learning about that by seeing a picture of you and ask a lot of questions. And it gives you a chance to use General Franks as an example and a hero and someone, a role model they should follow. If any of you are watching this video who are parents, you'll know what that means. Right.
Right.
And so we're a people that tell stories, and stories are how we come together and believe. And General Franks is someone that has an incredible story. So sorry to go on and on about that, but
No, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing. I think it's very, very important, and lest we forget, and that's something that we try to do all the time is, and that's General Franks' feeling as well, is that we have to learn our history and know our history so that we have a foundation to know where we're going. And sharing the importance of his place in history is a very big deal. So it's worthy of going on and on about. Absolutely. So thank you for that. And I know that the students listening to this will be really impacted. And I think that's really important. And that's what we want to do, is share those stories, because they are very impactful. I think sharing the stories of what happened before and how it was and how it is now is an important part of understanding how far we've come.
Hello, this is Jay Zacharias with the General Tommy Franks Leadership Institute and Museum, and I would like to tell you about one of our partner sponsors. His name is Justin Krieger, and he has worked as an independent insurance agent at Krieger Insurance Agency in his hometown of Hobart, Oklahoma since 1999. Justin is honored to help with the annual Celebration of Freedom event and has been a board member for the General Tommy Franks Leadership Institute and Museum for many years. He is also a 5th-generation farmer and rancher in Kiowa County, where cattle, crops, and even insurance is sold with a handshake. Give him a call at 580-726-3076 or come by the office if you would like to speak with Justin Krieger or Kathy Lankford about insurance. We are thankful to our customers and friends who have supported us through the years. Again, Justin would like to say how honored he is to live in such a great country and how proud he is to help sponsor these podcasts. Please enjoy the rest of this podcast experience from your friends at Krieger Insurance Agency.
I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about that, but I know you also served as a senior advisor to U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. Having any thoughts about that time?
Yeah, look, I mean, she's incredible. I mean, anything, you know, she was a young Black girl in Alabama whose good friend died in the Birmingham church bombings. She then rises up at a period of great turmoil. You know, at a time when her father sat in the shotgun in their front yard in a lawn chair to keep the night riders from killing her family. That was her childhood. So as bad as some of us have had it, we didn't have it that bad.
Yeah.
And then she goes on to become, you know, a preeminent scholar and statesman and leader, who frankly, you know, in their time as national security advisors made our nation safer. And then as a statesman, really at a time of great division, really helped bring a lot of people together at state. So I learned so much from her, traveled the world with her, went to over 80 countries with her. And, you know, with General Franks, I got to see a great military leader and statesman. With Condi, I got to see a great intellectual thought leader and statesman. And so it was just phenomenal. And just to, you know, get off a plane in a foreign country and see women in that country who barely had rights in some places, to see a woman getting off a plane in command, that was really powerful to see. So,
absolutely. And I think you did some work for the women in Afghanistan as well, did you not?
I did, yeah. Like there were so many of us. I worked as part of the team with the First Lady and others to help support them and what they were doing. You know, there were so many, you know, First Lady Karen Hughes, so many leaders who, you know, were the real fighters on the front lines to help these women. And obviously what's happened there, it's tragic now, but women weren't allowed to go to school. They weren't allowed to see a doctor without a male present. Weren't allowed to leave their house. If they did leave the house, they had to have the awful burqa on. And so, you know, you just have to understand what it's, you know, what that's like. And that was unimaginable to us, you know. And so that's not a Republican or Democrat thing. That's just a right and a fairness. And people say, well, why is it, and some of you watching this, why is it our job to go help people in other parts of the world? Why? Because that's what we do as Americans. That's what we do. Well, why do we do it? Because that's what's right. I'm a Christian, so I look at faith. And faith, if you're a person of faith watching this, we are required to go and help others. We don't just pull the ladder up and say, us four no more. Our job is to go and help. And that's one of the things about General Franks, is he cared about going out and making the world better. All right. And you fly into New York City, you can see the massive graveyards of people. Don't know any of their names. They probably felt like they were indispensable. But a lot of those people made a lot of our lives in this video better. And every town in little community in this country has a cemetery full of people whose names we don't know, but who worked hard to make us better. That's really, I think, what we're called upon to do. And so that's, as you think about being a leader, there are three kinds of leaders in the world. I went to the Yale School of Management and did a fellowship. There are three kinds of leaders. There are makers, there are takers, and there are givers. If you look at takers are transactional. I'll help you if I get this, all right? And statistically, takers never get out of the middle. They always end up in the middle. Then you have makers. And makers are leaders that believe so passionately in one cause, they can't see the bigger picture. And they work hard for that one cause. They can't ever statistically get it out of the middle. If you look at givers leaders end up in two places, the very top or the very bottom. The top is what you define it as. That can be money, that can be impact, but the people that actually run organizations typically didn't go to the best schools. They were servant leaders who wanted to help others. You can also get taken advantage of. All of you watching this video, if you're a giving leader, you can be taken advantage of. All right. I say, so what? So what? Right? You got to be on guard so people don't take advantage of you. But as a giver, you can help other people. I gotta break it to you if you're young. Okay. I don't care how good you are, how smart you are. There's nothing you can do alone in this world. If you want to do something that truly changes people's lives for the better, you have to do it with other people. One of the things General Franks was incredible at is that coalition. Whether it's my wife and 2 kids, my kids won't listen to me. All right. I got to have other people around me to support there. All right. That's the same thing in business. If you think you can be the hero business leader, folks, it doesn't exist. Okay. It's a team. You watched The Last Dance and Michael Jordan. It was a team. Okay. When everyone else was out doing drugs and getting drunk on Friday night, he was working out and shooting free throws and supporting his team. So you have to decide, as an old saying in Texas, everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die. So whatever your version of heaven is, you better decide what it's going to take to do it. It's going to take logistics. It's going to take working with other people. It's going to take probably actually caring about someone else who may look different than you, may sound different than you, may have a different perspective than you. And to do that, you're going to have to pick who you're going to learn from. And General Franks is one of those people that reflected all of this.
You know, even today in the leadership program, he encourages our leadership students to help others. He created a new initiative with the help of one of his dear friends called Understanding Community Understanding. And its acronym, of course, is UCU, but it encourages students to find an initiative in their community, look for a problem in the community, something that needs to be better or a problem that needs to be solved. And what can you do about it? What kind of initiative can you create to make this better or solve the problem? And there are scholarship dollars attached to the programs that they put together and bring back to our leadership program and say, you know, this was the issue. This is what I'm doing about it. This is what I have created to sustain it. These are the people I put together, you know, as kind of a task force to keep this going. And so it's really a great new program. So even today in his retirement, he is still working towards that goal. And so thank you so much for your words and encouragement in that. And his dear friend Joe says, and I quote him, if you have the resources, you have the responsibility to help others and look for initiatives to make life better for everyone. And it's not just an opportunity. It's if you have the resources, and sometimes you have to find the resources. Absolutely have to find them to make it happen. But if you see something that needs to be done, create an initiative to make it happen. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Of course.
And you know, great leaders lift others up. I think that's what servant leadership is all about, is lifting others up. When you see some talent or something in someone else that you think can be improved or developed, that's what we do, is developing young leaders, is to do that. Lift them up, help them to be better. So, okay. Unless there's some more that you want to say about that, do you want to move forward into 2010?
Sure.
When you went to work for Brunswick Group, and share something about?
Yeah, look, I had been chief of staff of the United States Treasury Department during the financial crisis. And then I went to join a company called Brunswick Group, which is a phenomenal group out of London. It was a consulting company, and really started helping people solve problems. I love solving problems. If you're watching this video and you're thinking about what career am I going to do?
Yeah.
Right, I changed my major multiple times. I can tell you at the end of the day, you're going to be solving problems. You're going to find some passion, and that's going to be solving problems.
Right.
Okay? You're creating music, you're solving problems. You're making movies on a day-to-day basis, you're solving problems. Right? If you're a CEO, you're solving problems. Okay. If you're running a daycare center, you're solving problems. And so that no matter what it is, you're going to do that. And so you just got to figure out which problems you want to solve. That's really what figuring out was. And so I liked, companies would call and I would help them solve problems. And then I got a call to go to PepsiCo they had a pretty big problem. They had an activist investor that wanted to break the company up. PepsiCo owns, Doritos and Cheetos and
Yes.
Quaker Oats and all my favorite brands, Pepsi and, all these different brands. And so it's a fun job. Got to go there. We worked on, we sponsored the Super Bowl halftime show. We worked with a lot of entertainment. I remember got to hang out with Blake Shelton a few times, working with him on some things. So it was really a cool job. And then I got a call from the Chinese. Got a call to go be head of global comms for Alibaba Group out of China. It was going to be the biggest IPO in history. And they said, need somebody to lead it. Would you do it? I said, you bet. So I went and did that, and had two children by then, and I was going to China 2 or 3 times a month. And so I did that for a couple of years, and my body was worn out from going back and forth. And so I decided to leave and start my own firm. I decided I'd seen enough and was ready to start my own firm, and I did it.
So tell us about what you do now, about your firm, TrailRunner International. What do you do? What kinds of projects do you work on? Solving problems.
Yeah, again, I want to gear this towards a young person who's watching and saying, what does this mean to me? If you grew up when I was a little boy, most people's parents kind of had the same job forever.
Right.
Kind of had a path picked out. Okay, the average 45-year-old now is going to have had 9 jobs. And what I mean by that is, as I said, the job you have one day probably doesn't exist yet in an industry that may not exist yet. And the point is that today in modern times, things don't fit in the neat categories. They used to fit in the neat categories. I'll go be a doctor or a teacher, or I'll do this, this, or this. It doesn't work that way anymore. You're going to probably do multiple things. And so I founded a firm called TrailRunner International, and we help companies solve problems. So most problems aren't neat problems. It used to be you had a legal problem or a public affairs problem or a regulatory affairs problem or a financial problem. Nowadays, it all kind of is thrown together. And a legal issue can also be a regulatory issue, which can be a reputational issue, which can also affect your stock price. And so we help companies in those moments. And if you face a challenge and you don't know the answer, we're one of the firms you call and say help. That's what we do. And so Jerry Jones, who owns the Dallas Cowboys, has this great term called intensive ambiguity. What I discovered was you got to be intense on a day-to-day basis, outwork people. I go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. I get up at 4 a.m. every morning. You got to outwork people. All right. But you don't know how it's going to end. That's the beauty. If you're taking time to watch this podcast, it means you're not out boozing or doing drugs or something crazy. It means you're actually trying to better yourself. And intensive ambiguity. I'm going to work hard, do everything I can to fight. I don't know how it's going to end, but I know that the best things in the world have ambiguous endings. If it was easy, you went to the right school and then you had the right job and met the perfect person and had the perfect number of kids and lived in the perfect house in the perfect town and made gazillions of dollars. And if it was that easy, it'd be linear. We'd all do it. Not that easy. There are ups, there are downs. And so that's what, as you think about your future, don't try to be a career architect. Don't try to think, I'm going to do this job, meet that person in this job, like you didn't, as little kids, sit around and hold hands and go, gee, I hope one day I can watch General Franks' podcast. Okay. You're going to be exposed to people and be around others. Just know that you can't be a career architect. You don't know where it's going to go. If you have intention and learn, be intensive, the ambiguity ending will be good. The ambiguous ending will be good. But also know you have a responsibility to help other people. Don't pull the ladder up after yourself. That's what a taker does. What a giving leader does is actually helps other people.
I like your quote, don't pull the ladder up after yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important. Can you share with us probably one of the more exciting projects that you've worked on there? I know they're all exciting, but at TrailRunner International, maybe some kind of really great, unusual projects that you were asked to help solve.
Yeah, look, I think one of my favorites is we're the official firm of the Dallas Cowboys. And so I'm a huge football fan. I'm a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. And during the pandemic, they were trying to figure out how to bring football back. How do you actually do that consistent with, federal rules and laws, state rules and laws, county rules and laws, city rules and laws, NFL rules and laws, union rules and laws. And so I got to work as part of the team. The Dallas Cowboys have an amazing management team. I got to work as part of that team to help do the COVID protocols and bring football back. I don't know, it won't be universal agreement, but I bet some people watching this would say, thank goodness football is back, because that's we all needed it. I think that's my East Texas heritage. I love it. Other people need other things, but that's really a fun project because I got to work with a great management team at the Dallas Cowboys who, truly tries to do the right thing, and got to be a part of that and do something that brought a lot of people joy. It's been fun. The other thing I'm working on is I'm now actually working as part of the national, hopefully will be the National COVID Commission. It's a group that's being put together to plan to get ready to try to think through what's happened and what we do about it. So that's exciting and, meaningful work. And to try to say, don't take the right-wing political view or the crazy left-wing political view, just what actually happened and what we do about it. And that's very exciting.
That is. And I appreciate that. I think some of those are more creative and fun, and some of them are very strategic, like your COVID project. And I know that when you said bringing football back with the Dallas Cowboys, that's something that is really important. We don't think about it being important, but having an outside hobby or interest other than your work is really important. And we found that during COVID, when everyone was kind of closed off from the world, that it was a huge mental stress to a lot of people, to a lot of students, a lot of people that were at home. And can you kind of share your thoughts about that?
Yeah, look, I think General Franks would probably tell you the way you break somebody is isolate them, from a psychological warfare perspective. Look, we're tribal people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great enemies of our world is this mobile phone right here.
Yes.
Right. Each of us can have our own tribe in our phone, and we can 100% surround ourselves only with people that agree with us. That's a problem. Okay. If you're watching this video and you've got 500 Facebook friends, no, you don't. You maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 friends. Maybe you don't have 500 friends. Okay. And so, we are people that need to be with other people. Okay, that's just kind of who we are. And so I often say that in a very tribal society, the most powerful businessmen and women and leaders across everything in the next 20, 30, 40 years will be those of young people in this call who bring together tribes. Okay, who bring together different views from different people. You may be the only one that said hi to that person today. Okay, if you're a Christian, the way you live your life may be the only Bible someone else reads. Okay, I mean, I read about this. They may see you and see your example. And so, what reason football is so important, I think, is it got people back together for something we could kind of agree on at a time we didn't agree on much. Okay, we're as divided as a nation as we've ever been. We've seen worse. We fought a civil war. We've seen a lot of worse divisions, but it's pretty bad in our country. But again, everybody watching this, I've had times during COVID, I just about had enough. I put on 15 pounds during COVID. I've now lost it. Okay. But, this has been a very stressful time mentally for most people. Here's what social media did wrong a lot. Number one, it induced comparison. Oh my gosh, look at this vacation. Amazing vacation. You ever seen any of your friends, any of your supposed 500 Facebook friends posted they had a bad vacation? No. So you feel like you got to one up it. So comparison is very dangerous mentally. Number one. Okay, the comparison game. Number two, though, what social media did is it really taught us that every one of us have a voice and can kind of control our own destiny. Well, every voice should count. Every voice should matter. Okay. Although what some clown thinks who's pontificating about something is why I care is beyond me, but every voice should matter. But then it leads us to believe that we can control everything in our life. And the truth is you can't. The truth is you can't. If any of you are on this video are parents, you know, you can't control it. Okay. And you realize that it takes working with other people in a very interpersonal setting to actually get something done. Right. And social media says, you know, you can't. It's just all in a thousand little individual things. Okay. And so as you think about what the kind of leader you're going to be, we have a rule in our firm. We don't manage by email or social media. Okay. If you're mad at me, if you're watching this video and I'm your boss, call me, talk to me. Don't send me a 2-page long email. Just call me. Okay. All right. And there's a reason computers can't think like humans, because no matter what you do with a computer, it'll always just be ones and zeros. It can learn through AI. You can have augmented reality. It's never going to be human. Humans need interaction with humans.
Absolutely. You know, what we cover in our leadership program each summer is General Frank's 4 core principles of leadership that led him through his military career, that being caring, communication, common vision, and character. Caring meaning that you have to care about the people that you're leading or they won't trust you. You have to communicate, which is just what you were talking about. And there's no substitute for communicating in person. And common vision, everybody being on the same page. And I know that you have covered a tremendous amount of that. And character, you have to have great character and integrity for people those that you're leading to respect you and feel comfortable under your leadership. Do you have any comments about those 4 core principles and how they fit into your life?
Yeah, look, let's start with caring. You actually have to care. You can't fake it. You know, I think the most powerful force in this world is unconditional love. You know, you actually have to love other people, because I got news for you if you're watching this. I don't know if you know this or not, but it all ends the same way. We all die. Okay. And we all wind up somewhere, and the next group comes after us. And so I believe I've learned the secret of life. I think as a 51-year-old man is you got to live with yourself. Okay. And are you going to do every single thing you can do to maximize your time on this earth? I've never heard anybody laying in bed who's dying, and we own a chain of funeral homes, one of our businesses, so I've seen a lot of deaths. I've never heard anyone go, gosh, I just wish I had more time to post more on Facebook. All right.
Absolutely.
I've never heard anybody say, gosh, I just wish I had more time on Twitter. I just wish I had more time on Instagram. Oh, I'm going to die. My gosh, I wish I had more time to work. No, it's experiences. I'm on the national board of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Okay. And what kids want is they want experiences. Is if you're facing what may be death for you, it all comes down to experience. Okay. And if you think through, what would I do if I had one more day to live? I imagine most of you would put down the mobile phone and go be with people. Okay. So why do we got to wait till we die for that? Why not do it now? Why not do it now? So, but to do that requires you actually to care about someone else's perspective. I can scream at you and say, get vaccinated. I can scream at you and say, don't violate my freedoms. Don't make me get vaccinated. I can scream at you and say, Trump's evil. I can scream at you and say, Biden's evil. Okay. That's all wasted motion. It's all wasted motion. What real adult leaders do, like General Frank's, is they bring people together, realize they're not going to get everything they want, but they're going to get something. And in our form of government, something is good. So I spent a lot of time in China. And the thing about communism is it's efficient. All right. And you don't want to live in that world where it's efficient. That's just fine as long as you're getting your way. But the minute you're not, that efficiency hurts you. We live in the greatest country with the greatest form of government in the world. Okay. But it requires us to actually care. Think about the military. There are people that care so much about you that they're willing to leave their town, their own tribe, go off to, it could be Paris Island, it could be San Diego, it could be Great Lakes in Chicago. They're willing to go off to basic training, and create a new tribe of people they don't even know for not a lot of money. And then be told by someone they don't know to take that tribe and go off and fight at risk of death or serious injury, losing their entire tribe, losing it all, just for you. Just for you. That's pretty incredible, actually.
Yes.
If you think about it. To go off and do something with, so that's what real caring is about. Character. Look, I've seen more crazy behavior in the pandemic than I thought I'd seen in my life. Yelling and screaming and stealing and lying and thieving and carrying on from people. All right. Characters should be easy. It's what your grandmother taught you, right? It ought to be pretty easy. Just be nice. We have 25 proverbs in the world that hang in every office. And proverb number 1 says, how you play the game matters. Just be nice. Nobody on this video is landing at the beaches of Normandy. Okay. All right. We've all got clothes. We've all got food. Sure, we all wish we had more money in the bank, but we're not going to starve to death. Okay. So let's don't be so dramatic about it. Let's actually have character and do that. Communications. Just talk to somebody. They'll tell you what they need. They'll tell you what they want. You may be the only person that talks to that person in a few days. There's a lot of loneliness out there. Okay. I go back to being a maker, a taker, or a giver. I'm going to talk to you. What do I get out of it? Like me participating in this podcast, what do I get? The answer is potentially to meet some of you and have more friends in life. Okay. That's it. I don't get money out of this. I don't get great stature out of this. Okay. So if you stop and say, what am I going to get out of this? If you're doing that multiple times a day, not good. Not good. Okay. So that's a few of your 4 C's there. That's 3 of your 4. And,
yes, and communication, the most important component of communication is actually listening. And so when we're talking about talking to others and talking to someone, they just want someone to listen, I think.
Let me give you a riddle. Here's a riddle I ask all you to do.
Okay.
Write this down. If you're watching, I want you to write this down. 9 plus 9 equals 8. 11 plus 11 equals 12. 12 plus 12 equals what? Based on the 2 things I said before, the 2 equations there. What does 12 plus 12 equal?
It would be 11.
No.
Based on what you said.
No. 9 plus 9 equals 8. 11 plus 11 equals 12. 12 plus 12 equals what?
Let's see, my math tells me 24, but I know it's different.
I give you this because you can't solve this riddle without thinking about it from a different perspective. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All of us, including me, I didn't get this for a while when I first started either. All of us look at that and we think about math. 9 plus 9 equals 18. Well, if 9 plus 9 equals 8, there must be some trick. Okay. 11 plus 11 equals, there's got to be something to do with the 1. They're bringing it down. There's no complex formula. Just like in life, there's no complex formula. The word 9 has 4 letters. So 9 plus 9 equals 8. The word 11 has 6 letters. You add it to 11, that's 6 more letters, that's 12. The word 12 has 6 letters. You add it to 12, it has 6 letters, it's 12. My point is, that's actually very simple, and a lot of adults won't get it. A lot of kids will. My point is, you can't look at that problem and solve it based on a one-dimensional approach to that. You have to look at it as a word problem, not as a number problem. So when you're talking to someone and you say to them, are you okay? And they said, yeah, I'm fine. They're probably telling you they're not fine. Okay. And so as a leader, your job is to figure out how 9 plus 9 can equal 8. And if you can figure out how 9 plus 9 can equal 8, you can go build a coalition like General Franks did. You can go be Michael Jordan. You can go run a company. Okay. You can be a servant leader who changes the lives of others. Okay. If you're not willing to stop and think about it and look at it, okay, you won't be. Okay. You're either in life going to be one of 2 things. You're either going to be a pilot or you're going to be a passenger. If you're watching this video, you're not the kind of person that lets life happen to you. One of the hardest parts of COVID has been we're all type A people. We like to be in control of our hours and our days. And we don't like it when someone else is in control of our schedule, especially something we can't see or understand in COVID. So my point is you have to take every single problem. Remember, I talked about solving problems that comes to you. Look at it differently. Look at it differently. When you're a business leader like I am, and like you all will be, whatever you go into, you're going to hear people talk about diversity. All right. If you're a woman listening to this podcast, beware of companies that say we have this women's program or this women's thing. Okay. That's not diversity. That's actually about as misogynistic as I can think of. It's like saying you're such an alien as a woman, you've got to be treated over here different. No. Okay. What real diversity says is by the time a problem gets to you, you need men around the table, women around the table, straight people around the table, gay people around the table, black people, white people, everybody around the table. Because by the time a problem gets to you, it's a hard problem that no one else could solve. And in modern times, those perspectives are different. I'm 51 years old. I guarantee you my perspective is different than any of you who are in your 15, 16, 17, or in your 20s. We don't see the world the same way. Okay? And what we know is if older leaders say, gee, we're going to do it this way because we've always done it that way, that doesn't work. We know if younger leaders say, we're only going to do this way because it's what's in vogue today, it has nothing to do with tradition, that doesn't work. Okay? Coming together with perspectives is how you actually change the world. It's how you invent a vaccine that matters. It's how you bring a coalition together to do something good. All right. It's how a family stays together. All right. But I have a 9-year-old daughter. A lot of what she tells me, I can't figure out. Okay. 9 + 9 = 8 on a lot of days in my house. And I got to know why. Okay. Are you going to be the leader that will listen and talk to someone that looks different than you, sounds different than you? If you are, you're going to do great. If you're not, you're going to be a passenger. Life is going to happen to you. Remember I said everybody wants to go to heaven, nobody wants to die. Let me tell you one more. The pain is inevitable. Suffering's optional. If you want to lead people, then you got to bring a diverse team together. If you don't want to lead people and you want to be right, then you can be a lone ranger and a lone wolf and a lone player. And that's fine. There are very few actual real servant leaders. And each of you watching this, I believe in my heart, you can become that. And you will be that. And I probably will work for you one day. What I'm going to tell you is you can't be a leader and do something great unless you live by those 4 principles General Franks espouses. You can't do it. Okay? Some things change, some things never change. And going back to the Old Testament, and even before that, if you didn't live by those 4 principles, you couldn't lead people. And so decide now, am I going to be a pilot or am I going to be a passenger?
These are great words to live by. I appreciate you so much. I know that when we share this on the podcast, all the students that will be listening and adults that listen to our podcast will gain a lot of wisdom and insight from all the different experiences you've had in life that you created for yourself by where, the places that you put yourself, starting with the letter writing campaign to work in Washington, D.C. And I think would that be when you said, you think that you initially said, hey, if I'm going to do something or have an opportunity, I'm going to have to create that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at I'm not calling myself a great leader, but you look at people like General Franks, people like you, people that run companies, they typically don't come from money. They got a hunger.
Right.
And nobody's going to give you anything. Nobody's going to give you anything. Okay. And so as Condoleezza Rice said, something that's impossible on Friday can be inevitable on Monday. Okay. And the difference between an NFL player and the ones that don't make it, they just work harder. They just work harder. Every now and then you see someone that's so unbelievably better than everyone else. You get it. But when I'm out on a football field and my kids playing flag football and I see 20 games going on this massive field, not a single kid's distinguishing themselves. One of those kids is going to the NFL. Okay. That kid that's going to outwork other people. That's the kid that's going to go to the NFL. All right. And so think about what you want. I would urge you to make sure you're having fun. I would urge you to make sure you consider faith. You consider how you can support other people. Realize you're flawed. I'm a very flawed person. We all are. It's okay. It's okay. All right. It's okay to be flawed. It's okay to have, things you're not proud of. Probably everyone in this video has done something they're not proud of. They hope no one ever knows. I have. We all have. Okay. And so that's okay. That's human. Okay. What's also human is a choice. What am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? Next 5 minutes, put another good 5 minutes after that. Wake up, the world has changed. If you sit there and wait on life to come along and pick you up, you're going to be sitting where you are. Probably running with the crowd is you never get past the crowd. If you stay with the crowd, you never get past the crowd.
Is that what you think about when you're running marathons? Because I know you're a marathon runner. So is that
Crazy to think about, why am I doing this?
about that when you're running? Huh?
No, but I like to, I'm a competitive person, and competition's good, right? But
Right.
I like to think, it's about perspective. So remember I talked about how comparison is bad. It's also human. So my workout, usually I work out at 5 in the morning with a trainer. That's really early. My workout ends at 5:45. And there's some small part of me that says, yeah, all those other people are sleeping. I'm already ahead of them. Already got my workout in. All right. Well, you want to feel good. You want to feel good. And you want to feel like you're getting better. All right. You're either rising or falling. Okay. And you're either learning and growing and making yourself healthier, or you're not learning and not growing and getting unhealthy. It's just the way it is. And so pain's inevitable, suffering's optional. So I work out because, and I'm a person of faith. I believe God knows exactly how many days I'm going to live. I don't think working out makes me live longer. What working out does is make me feel better every day. And I want to feel better every day I can on this earth while I'm with my family. Because one day I won't feel good. One day it's coming for all of us. If you watch Game of Thrones, winter is coming. For all of us, it's coming. Okay? And so I don't think we're going to be going, it's coming, and gosh, I wish I had done more Twitter. I only wish I'd put 1,000 more pictures on Instagram. Think about social media, nobody cares. You realize that no one really cares what you think. When you have a problem, when Yale School of Management has said the science, when you have a problem, they discovered that 90% don't care, and the other 8 or 9% are kind of glad you have the problem. So it doesn't matter. If you live your life based on the number of likes you get, and that is your judge of self-worth, that's going to end in tears. Social media is not new. This has been going on since our country's founding. There's always been new ways of communicating, new ways of validation. All right. And you got to live with yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Typically I ask our podcast people, what words of wisdom do you have for our students? And this entire podcast has been filled with words of wisdom for our students. So I think everyone needs to make sure they have plenty of note paper when they sit down and listen to the program, because it is it's full of some great words of wisdom, some great advice, and a great way to start outlining the future for a young person. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, and your history with us, and how you got where you are, kind of makes you who you are and what makes you tick. We appreciate it so much. It's always so great for other students to know that it is hard work. Everybody that got somewhere has had to do some hard work and some self-reflection about what they want to do. It's not easy for anybody, and so these stories are always so motivating and so helpful. So thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet. Anybody watching or listening, get me on LinkedIn. Come see me. Let's talk. Let's strategize. Let's whiteboard it. Okay. I mean, it's only your life we're talking about here. So I'm available at any time for you to help any of you. And I just wish you all the very best. And
okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that offer for communication from our students. So thank you. That's awesome. Have a great day.
All right. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you again to REI Oklahoma for making this podcast possible. For nearly 40 years, the board, staff, patrons, and supporters of the nonprofit economic development REI Oklahoma are committed to expanding Oklahoma's economic prosperity, earning the reputation of being one of the most comprehensive economic development organizations in the country. Business loans, training workshops, business consulting, and networking opportunities, as well as technical assistance and even commercial business space, are made available to Oklahoma entrepreneurs and small businesses. For low and moderate income individuals and families, down payment and or closing cost assistance is offered. Learn more at reiok.org. This has been the 4-Star Leadership Podcast. Now it's your turn, 4-Star listeners. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what you thought of this episode. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast and tune in next month for our next episode that airs every last Friday each month. Go be great.